and answer whatever comes up in today's discussion.
Fantastic. So quickly, my name is Bhavesh Kothari. I'm the co-founder and director of Billennium Divas. Billennium Divas is arguably India's largest community for women entrepreneurs, and with a growing presence globally with UK, Europe, and Australia as our footprints. We also are one of the key players in nurturing and encouraging women in entrepreneurship, and fortunately we have been able to do some impactful work in promoting women in entrepreneurship, especially with two books that we have launched in the last 7 months. The books are titled 25 Inspiring Women Entrepreneurs as Eves Against the Odds, and where we have covered 50 women entrepreneurs from a diverse section of industry. Hence, we have not only restricted ourselves in just purely entrepreneurship, but mental and physical wellness as well. Because I think as an entrepreneur, it's a very lonely journey. I have been an entrepreneur, a mentor since past a decade now, having mentored more than 12 to 13 dozen startups, especially right from their business strategy to go to market to raising capital as well. And we believe that the only way entrepreneur can actually excel is not just through his ideas and businesses, but also creating a strong team which is not only physically fit but also mentally fit and perfect as well, right? So this is what Billennium Divas has been doing over the last 5 years. And today's session with Mahesh and Sepalika is one more example of why we not only talk about entrepreneurship, but also from a holistic growth perspective as well. So before we get into this amazing EMA, I am going to put some small quick rules so that we all can together learn and experience this. Please keep yourself on mute. And if you have any questions, do raise your hand. There is a reaction button here. If you like something, or do clap. If you agree to something, do put a thumbs up. If you love something, do send those hearts to us. We love those. Your love is something that will help us grow and foster more activities around this. And yes, there's a raise hand. So if you have a question, do raise hand. I would ideally recommend that once we are on through this AMA, we will have ample time for a Q&A to pick Mahesh's brain and his, understand his expertise as well. So we will keep this Q&A at the end of the session. We'll keep it very crisp, around 30-35 minutes, and then we'll open it to you so that we could have more learning experience rather than just Mahesh and me having, just a dialogue and making it more interactive, so that the time that you spend is valuable today. So thank you so much once again for all of you taking your precious time out and joining this amazing session, which is powered by Billennium Divas in association with Sepalika. So Mahesh, my first question to you is, there is a lot of myth around women's health, especially when it comes to periods and fertility. Could you just throw some light around that with your experience?
Sure. So we all know that in this current sort of 21st century that we live in, both men and women wait a little longer to start families. So we're both the man and the woman are focusing on their careers, and often it's in our mid-30s that finally one is able to feel that everything is fine. We're financially stable enough. Focused on our career enough, and therefore we're now ready to start our family. And one of the myths around this is often that it cuts both ways. So on the one hand, there is the whole IUI IVF industry that is kind of waiting to scare you into saying, "Acha, you're 35. That means there's no hope for you. You should immediately not waste any more time and get into assisted reproductive techniques like IUI and IVF." And on the other hand, the age is just a number. Everything is going to work out by itself. So unfortunately, or probably typically, the truth is always somewhere in between. if you're somebody who's taken care of their health well till the age of 35, if you have the right mix of vitamins, minerals, and things that are needed to create a new life, to be healthy yourself and then naturally create a new life, then you will be fertile, and you should have no problems in conceiving, etc. And at the same time, even if you're much younger but you haven't taken care of yourself, you don't sleep on time, you don't eat right, you've run a very stressful life to, as I keep saying, exchange time for money, then eventually you will have to exchange, the money back for health. So that's how that goes. So the myth kind of goes both ways, and the truth is that if you want to conceive even at a slightly later age, in your mid 30s, even in your late 30s, we have women as old as 40 who conceive with us. Then what is important is that you understand that your foundations need to be really strong. And yes, you do have to spend time allowing your body to recover from all the stressors that you've put it through for 40 years. So, don't rush into IVF. At the same time, don't think everything will work by magic by itself.
Very interesting, Mahesh. Thank you so much. So my next question to you is, this is a myth around women trying to conceive, right? Uh, if you can't conceive after trying naturally for 6 months to a year, is IVF the only option that is available?
Yeah, so again, not true. And what is important is what you did in those 6 months. If all you did in those 6 months is to try and time intercourse around the time that you think you're fertile, or, sort of generally, that's all that couples will usually do, then it is quite possible that you will not succeed. So, another big, I won't call this a myth, but yeah, probably it is a myth. It's a very common misunderstanding that people think that in order to conceive, you just need to have intercourse at the right time. Whereas, even the worldwide statistics tell us that a completely healthy couple, when trying at the right time, only has a 1 in 4 chance of succeeding in any given period. Which means that, in that 6 months period, if you've been doing everything right, you've probably spent 4 months to max out the possibility that you are that 1 in 4. It's only in that fourth month that you're actually saying, okay, something may be wrong. So this whole idea that immediately after 6 months you have to go for ART, IUI, IVF, etc., it's not even borne out by the basic statistics. And assuming that most of us don't make it to that stage in life with all our health as ideal as we might have been in a more youthful time. Let's say in our 20s we have a lot more health, we have a lot more energy, and then in our 30s that energy begins to fade a little. We all feel that. So at that time, just trying for 6 months and saying, hey, it didn't work out, I should go for IVF, that's probably sort of jumping the gun a little too much. Far better to work on your foundations, get some of that youthful energy back, which is very much possible. The body is very forgiving. The body really, is capable of correcting itself, cleaning itself, and getting you back to that youthful state. So I would say that trying for natural conception in a scientific way is the wisest thing to do before you hit anything which is like IUI or IVF.
Wonderful, wonderful. Uh, Mesh, I mean, this is a question that actually came to us during the early activities that we were doing around this whole campaign and the topic. Today is a very stressful world, right? And especially post pandemic, there has been a very very serious challenge, and obviously the lifestyle that that we all live, right? Especially there's a lot of pressure today. More women are coming to the workforce, more women are getting into business and entrepreneurship, right? So it's a very very fast paced life, very stressful life. What would you recommend, and not only for women, I think men together as well, right? So what would you recommend to couples, especially who want to also make sure that they build a career and at the same time they want to start a family? What would be your advice in such a case?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's a very, very difficult and sort of very fast-paced life that we are currently living. So I would say honestly, this is something that we tell all our patients, right? We say nature has only two dictums for all of us. All of us, all animals have only two dictums, right? So it is for you to be healthy and happy. And once you're healthy and happy, to produce the next generation. Everything else is man-made, our careers, our cars, our homes, our status, everything else is something we have chosen to prioritize. So nature has only two priorities. So within limits, nature will support you on these two priorities as long as you kind of, keep some kind of balance between what you're trying to do, which is man-made, and what nature wants. So if you end up, for example, working really long hours, and then partying really hard on the weekend, and if you're basically thinking that that's a lifestyle that's somehow going to, support both your health as well as the, sort of creation of the next generation, then that's not something that we find is tenable. So in many couples, we often find that, when you ask, so we take a very detailed history when we do an analysis of anybody who comes to us for health concerns. So one of the first questions we ask is, do you wake up in the morning feeling rested? So if, for example, you say that, no, I feel groggy at least 3 or 4 mornings, or, I have to drag myself out of bed, that itself is an early warning that something isn't okay, right? So it doesn't matter what you're prioritizing, whether it's your career or something else, whatever you're prioritizing. If you're not going to support the vehicle, this body in which all this activity has to be carried out, then you will really struggle. So if I were to give one top tip, it would be to try and get anywhere between 7 to 8 hours of restful sleep every night. Preferably, if you go by the Ayurvedic dictum, you should ideally be getting it from 10 p.m. onwards. So, the window between 10 to 12, to 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., it's such a crucial window of restful sleep that, if you give that 10 to 12 window, then even if you wake up at 4:30, if you're somebody who's part of the 5 a.m. entrepreneur club, and you want to wake up at 5. So even if you do the 10 a.m. to 5, 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. sort of thing, you will get deeply restful and restorative sleep. So if there's one thing for men and women common, I would say, look at your sleep. If your sleep is fine, and if you're getting 8 hours and you're waking up rested, there's a good chance most of your other health is automatically in place.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you. I think it's a great insight that you mentioned about it. Uh, how important is, I mean, obviously nutrition is a very, very, a critical part in our day-to-day healthy and wellness life, right? Uh, what would you recommend when it comes to especially nutrition? Is there any specific diet that women need to follow, especially after 30 when they're trying to conceive, or what would be your inputs around that?
Sure. So, two big tips on that again. One certainly for men and women both, and one specifically for women. I would say whatever you eat, try and follow the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time, try and eat the way I'm telling you. What we learn from nutrition school, what we learn from, the cutting edge research that is taking place. And not funnily enough, it mirrors what Ayurveda and traditional medicine has been saying for donkey's years. Right? So eat food that is fresh, eat food that is well cooked. And the general sort of rule to remember is, if you think of 360 degrees on that plate, divide it into four quadrants. First quadrant, make sure it's raw vegetables. Second quadrant, make sure it's cooked vegetables. Third quadrant, make sure it's whatever protein source you. If you're vegetarian, then it's the paneer or the dal or the sprouts or whatever. If you're non-vegetarian, then it's your animal protein, whether it's chicken, mutton, fish, whatever you do. And only the last quadrant should be grain carbohydrates. So in India, it tends to be half and half, right? So one half is the roti or the rice, and the other stuff is whatever else we put in there. So this little imbalance, if you can correct it and turn it into those four quadrants again, that will make a huge difference to your energy levels, to your ability to work better, to be healthy better, and so on. So that's a tip that's common to both men and women. As far as women are concerned, especially if you're trying to conceive post the age of 30, we advise them a simple technique called seed cycling. So seed cycling is where you do 1 tablespoon each of 2 seeds in the first half of your period cycle, and you do another 2 different seeds in the second half of your period cycle. So it's very easy to remember. So from the day of your period, you count that as day 0. And for the next 15 days, you do what we call as flap, which is flax seeds and pumpkin seeds. So 1 tablespoon of each, soak it overnight, have it the next morning. From day 15 to day 30 of the period cycle, remember the acronym SUSI. So that is sunflower and sesame seeds. Same 1 tablespoon each, soak it overnight, have it in the morning. So these seeds tend to be powerhouses of nutrition. They have the ability to balance your hormone cycle, and you will find immediate benefits within 2 or 3 period cycles. You will know that your hormones are increasing, improving in their balance, because you'll have better moods, you'll have lesser pain, you'll have lesser discomfort around periods. Your periods will become more regular, and overall, it improves your fertility beyond the age of 30. It's the simplest thing that we, are able to advise everybody, and it's among the most effective. So anybody who sort of, doesn't have a nut allergy or a seed allergy, that's the only caveat here. Other than that, this suits everybody. So I think somebody wanted me to repeat.
Yeah, if you could repeat, please,
I'll
those
repeat
acronyms and those quick short forms.
We will, and I'll be happy to anybody who writes in. We've got a little PDF we have created. We give it free to everybody. Just write into us. Just leave a comment with Bhavesh, and we'll make sure that you get the PDF. It's a easy one, so you then don't have to necessarily mug up the acronym and so on. So it's FLAC in the first 15 days. So that's flax seeds and pumpkin seeds. Okay. And it's SUSI in the second half. That's sunflower seeds and sesame seeds. So it's FLAP and SUSI. Yeah. And we, like I said, happy to share the PDF with everyone.
I have a question. Hello.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
What is the quantity of sunflower seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, and sesame seeds that you should consume?
So it's 1 tablespoon of each. So it's level tablespoon. So,
Okay.
1 sunflower, 1 tablespoon flax overnight. Once you've soaked it overnight, you can start the water in the and just chew up.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
yeah, great, perfect. Mahesh, I think one question that kept hovering in my mind while you were discussing the whole aspect of nutrition and all that, right? One of the key aspects that anyone, for that matter, right, have been talking about IVF, right? So that's the alternative solution that people have today, right? What should be the last mile when couples should go and look at IVF as an option, or is there an alternative before they get into it? What would be your thought?
Yeah, yes, indeed. And that's the reason that we chosen to do this at Sepalika. We started Sepalika as a women's hormone health clinic, and we were kind of widely focused on pretty much all hormonal issues. And then we realized that within our people who came in for regular hormonal issues, so many people were kind of already very hastily deciding to go for IVF. Because right now the spectrum is something like this, so you try for about 4 to 6 months. And like I said, since all of us are focusing on our careers, we start only a little late, right? Already parents, in-laws are already putting pressure. Some of our friends who are peers like us may have already had kids. So you already bring in all that pressure kind of loaded on to that, from that point where you start. So then you try for 6 months. And like I said, the chance of a fully healthy young couple is 1 in 4 per period, right? So up to 4 periods, so आप सिर्फ statistics के साथ जा रहे हो. You're literally just trying to make sure that you've kind of at least matched the mean kind of thing. And then it's 2 months after that, right? So once you've done this for 6 months, the general well-meaning, but I feel again, hasty advice is now you go for IVF. Why has this happened? I remember even 5-7 years back, IVF wasn't this widespread, or even at the current expensive levels, it's still considered more affordable than it used to be. Early on, I remember it used to be 10-12 lakhs per cycle. Now we are looking at a lakh and a quarter per IVF cycle, right? So it's fallen literally tenfold. And a lot of us, like I said, have already exchanged our time for money. So by the time we are in our mid-30s, we can afford the sawa lakh rupiah. So it's not a big deal. So, we are saying it's 1.25 lakhs. Result is guaranteed, as we think somehow in our heads, right? Because we're thinking it's science, it's cutting edge, it's going to deliver. What most people don't know is IVF has a 1 in 3 chance of success. And that is not per round. That is per 10 rounds. So you do 10 rounds of IVF, the chance that you will have a live birth is 1. And this is 1 in 3 such people who do it. So the odds are actually ridiculous. Most people don't realize how poor the odds are in IVF, right? So what happens is, even though doctors are well-meaning, they aren't really taught the foundational sciences, which means in those 6 months when you tried, you could have just had something as foolish as low levels of vitamin D3 or vitamin B12 or zinc. Any of these foundational things aren't working. And yet everybody is working on your top floor, which is your reproductive system. So we tell people, think of your health or your, entire sort of being in 5 stories. We say health ka agar building hai, and if you're looking at the 5th floor, the top floor as your reproductive system, the foundational floor is that plate that I mentioned, which is what is your carbs to fats to proteins ratio. That's the absolute bedrock ground floor. 1 floor above that are your micronutrients, which is your vitamins and minerals, D3, B12, zinc, magnesium, all of these minerals. 1 floor above that is your thyroid functions. Most reproductive doctors aren't trained to actually suspect, look for, and identify a mild hypothyroidism. They look only for frank hypothyroidism, which is an extreme case, and they don't look for mild hypothyroidism. Above that is the sleep layer that I mentioned as the single hack for men and women. Most reproductive doctors don't look at sleep at all. And yet sperm formation, egg formation, all of this literally happens when you sleep. It doesn't happen through the daytime. It's a circadian cycle. And finally, the top floor is where all your gynacs and IVF experts are working, which is your ovaries, your testicles, your uterus, your entire reproductive apparatus. So we often tell people कि आपका 5th floor अगर हिल रहा है, you've got a shaky 5th floor. All your IVF doctors are trying to put sticks around the walls of the 5th floor and make it stable. When actually what's happening is that your foundational floors are the ones that are weak. This common sense nobody uses in their own health. Unka building hota to they would have thought about it. But when it's their health building, we don't think about it. So if you don't have simple D3, B12, if you don't have the building blocks of those hormones, how will those hormones get created? And why do you want to work on the 5th floor before your work on the ground floor? So next question that comes is, when should I actually work on the 5th floor, which is the IVF and IUI floor? And my answer to that is, first, when we fix the remaining 4 floors, most likely 8 out of 10 cases, we find the 5th floor fixes itself. Because the real problem was down there, which nobody fixed for you. That's why you've gone from doctor to doctor, had failed rounds of IUI. इसीलिए आपके साथ ये हुआ, because everybody was barking up the wrong tree. So now when you fix these foundations, like I said just a little bit earlier, nature has only 2 dictums. You be healthy and happy, create me the next generation that's healthy and happy. So why would nature want to prevent you from having a child? Nature delights in giving every human being a child, as long as you are healthy yourself. So if you're not able to have a child, somewhere your own health is compromised. You may be healthy enough to live your own life, but not healthy enough to create a new generation. So these are 2 separate things. So my answer is, who should go for IVF? Anybody with structural defects, which we can clearly identify. Even if I fix all the foundations. So there is a little, medical apparatus called fallopian tubes, which connects the ovaries to the uterus. And those fallopian tubes tend to be very delicate. So if somebody has blocked fallopian tubes, and we know from day one that the fallopian tubes are blocked, then we do recommend that you should go for IVF. In fact, Sepalika is not against IVF. We run a separate program to support couples who are going for IVF. Even there, we see that when we do the fundamental work, those odds that I mentioned, 1 in 3 in 10 cycles, those improve hugely when your foundations are better. Because IVF may be yaad rakhiye, they finally have to take your own egg. They have to take the sperm from your husband. If those two are weak, because nobody gave you the vitamins and minerals needed, you will go round after round with an embryo that's simply not growing. So again, the common sense is such an uncommon thing. So we always, insist first fix the foundations. And yes, we do advise ourselves also that when a couple has done all the foundational work, we show them with evidence how their sperm has improved, how their ovum has improved. And now we are at the stage where the fallopian tubes are blocked. We know that even despite advancements in science, it's not surgically fixable. That means that the egg and the sperm don't have a place to meet, which is the fallopian tubes. So they must meet in a petri dish outside and they need to come back in. So that much is clear. But even the lady's ability to carry that embryo that's given from outside is multiplied many fold if her own health is great, right? So this is very, very simple and commonsensical. So yes, indeed, IVF as our last option and where needed, but fix your foundations anyway.
Wonderful. I think, very, very insightful, Mahesh. Thank you so much. Especially, there are a lot of myths around this whole, course of IVF, and how do you actually figure it out when to go around that as well, right? Uh, I think, Pranita, you had a question, right? Someone raised a hand.
Um, yes, so I think there are a couple of questions around what to do with low AMH if I have an AMH which is less than 1. Does it really affect natural fertility? There is one more question from Neha. Polypectomy suggested by Gynac. Is it normal to get it done?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
would you like AMH question first, Mahesh?
Sure. So happy to, as always, this is medical information. We need to caveat it. So please be sure that, the information that's being shared is a general nature. It's not possible to give a particular opinion on anybody's case. So this is the reason we do something called a counseling consult as part of Sepalika's program. So, we run a 6-month fertility program for man and woman. So it's it's for both, we believe, equal partners, and they are equally responsible. And as part of that, before you decide, is the Sepalika program even a good fit for you, we do something called a counseling consult. And in that counseling consult is where we request you bring in your specific reports, etc. And we will analyze them for you and let you know where should you go from here. You don't even have to join the Sepalika program. There's no compulsion. We will tell you which stage on this journey from, first trying yourself all the way to IVF. Where are you on that? What is the logical next step that I would take if I were in your place, right? So just remember, in case you have very specific questions on your AMH, etc., I would advise that, do take that opportunity, because then, we'll be able to give you answers very, very pointed. And now let's talk about AMH to the extent we can. Bhavesh, I know that, it's a general sort of forum, but the questions which are coming in are very specific. So I'm going to, get a little technical, but I'll try and keep it as usual, as common sense, simple man language, sort of stuff that we can do. Okay.
Perfect.
So AMH stands for anti-Mullerian hormone, and it's a hormone that is secreted by immature eggs in your ovaries. Okay. So AMH as a marker of whether you are fertile or you have low fertility potential, this has emerged only in the last 10 years. So it's still nascent research. So don't blindly be disappointed by low AMH. We get a lot of cases where women are told your AMH is low and therefore, your chances of conception are low. Jaldi se IVF kara lo. Everything leads to that same conclusion. Jaldi se IVF kara lo. So we sort of little skeptical on that. So what does it mean? AMH is a chemical that's secreted, like I said, by immature follicles. In every period cycle, you need only one egg to actually mature. You need only 1 of 1,000 follicles to mature and release an egg, which can be fertilized by a sperm, as long as you're looking at natural conception. In every natural conception, 1 egg is finally fertilized by 1 sperm. The reason that we get into AMH being low as a problem, and IVF doctors often point it out, is because IVF is an unnatural process. In an unnatural process, you're doing things to try and bypass nature. Okay. So in an IVF cycle, what you do is you look at the number of immature eggs that a lady has in her ovaries. You sprinkle super fertilizer on it. So it's clomiphene citrate or letrozole, any of the sort of stimulative drugs that are used. And then you make the lady's ovaries produce multiple eggs in a cycle. So not one egg, but you create 8 to 15, as many eggs as you can. This is called the stimulatory cycle. Then they will extract the eggs using a large pore syringe. And now those eggs can be taken into a petri dish in a lab where sperm can be injected into them and we can form multiple embryos. The reason, therefore, that the IVF clinic wants to know what is your AMH is because higher the AMH, greater the number of immature follicles. Therefore, my chances of getting greater number of eggs in a stimulatory cycle is higher. Because IVF is an expensive procedure and I want as many eggs as possible, because mujhe pata hai, if I extract 8 to 10 eggs, 1 or 2 will form embryos. And I have to finally put the embryo back in you in order to create a baby. So to maximize your chances of creating embryos in an IVF cycle, the doctor is interested in how many immature cells you have and how you sprinkle fertilizer on them. However, in a natural cycle, we don't really bother that much about AMH. We are saying even if the number of immature sort of follicles is lesser, is one of them capable of maturing and producing a nice healthy egg? Because hame to ek baby chahiye. We don't want. So I often jokingly tell my patients ki, hame Kaurav chahiye ki Pandav chahiye. So, we are not looking for the 100 eggs. We need only one egg to mature and we need it to mature well. We want it healthy. So that is the difference in why we don't pay that much attention to AMH. But this is my general first statement that I make. Like everything, there will be fine print. So if you're a 43-year-old and your AMH is low and your FSH is high and certain other parameters are there, I'm afraid the same statement will not apply to you. So please bear in mind, this is the general understanding. On the Sepalika YouTube channel, we do have a lot of these small videos, usually less than 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, explaining things like low AMH, should I be worried, etc. You're welcome to look it up there as well. It will give you a more detailed explanation, and we also have articles, blog articles. In fact, there is a specific one on low AMH and fertility. We'd be happy to point you in that direction as well. So that's what I would say about AMH. And just to give you a practical thing as well, we've now got a lady, one of our clients, we've had 21 Sepalika babies in the last 2.5 or so years. These were all born to women who were told ki IVF se bhi nahi hoga. So that's how that's our pedigree. That's the kind of cases that come. We are a wholly online clinic. We don't have a fancy office for you to come and visit. We don't have shiny, scary looking lab facilities. And therefore you can expect only the people who have been rejected everywhere else will come to us. Nobody comes to us as the first port of call. There are very few intelligent couples who will come to us and say ki hamare foundations stick kar do, we want to start right. Most people come to us after at least 3 rounds of failed IUI and at least 3 rounds of failed IVF. This is our profile. And yet in those couples with an AMH of 0.4, there's a lady 38 years old who's now entered into her second trimester. This is with a left corrugated artery, which was small, and a right blocked fallopian tube. So if you foundations, all kinds of things happen. We are not miracle mongering. We are not saying ki har kisi ke saath hi hoga. That would be foolish. It takes very specific interventions. And therefore, if you send us your specific reports and, do the counseling consult, we'll be able to guide you very soon. Yeah. So this is
Fantastic. I think, Mahesh, thank you so much. I think you made it more simpler to understand, rather than those complicated information that is available as we become doctors, we start searching Google, right? So that's what human nature has been today. Every answer is there on Google. But thank you so much. What I will do now quickly is let me open this floor to Q&A. I think that's better because we have so many women who have joined us today who have questions. So Janvi, quickly over to you first.
Yeah, hi doctor. My question is a little off track. I wanted your opinion that if you've had a family history of cancer, should you consider going for IUI and IVF considering there is so much of hormones happening in the process?
Uh, it's a difficult question, but let me tell you how I would approach it in my own family. So, family history of cancer and therefore trying IVF. The idea of that is that in IVF, you reach up to the embryo stage and you can do something called PGS testing, where you test the DNA of the embryo to find out whether or not the child whom you're trying to create, will that child carry the genes for cancer as well, or is there something that's going to happen? I hope that's the nature of the question, not related to chemotherapy, etc.
No, no, no. It's not related to chemotherapy. My question is a little primitive, if I may say so, that I wanted to ask that if my mother has had breast cancer, will me doing IVF, if I have to, increase my probability of having cancer in the near future?
Oh, that's a very different and very specific question. Okay, so this is a cancer question, this isn't a fertility question, but I'll answer.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's how it goes, right? So certainly exposure to external hormones, which is part of the IVF process, is known to increase overall risk in people who have a family history of hormone sensitive cancers. Okay, so this is a very
Okay.
subtype of cancers. So these are called ER/PR cancers. So for example, in breast cancer, you might have estrogen receptor positive and progesterone receptor positive cancers. Okay, so
Okay.
these are cancer traits which, if you have too much of these hormones, may actually produce cancer-like growths. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
ER/PR positive history, and it can't be one relative, it can't be just your mother. It's usually multiple people. There'll be a mother, there'll be an aunt, there'll be some other female relative who all have this kind of a profile. Only in such a case would I worry that IVF per se will increase my chances of cancer. Okay, so I
Okay. Okay.
worry about that as a very big thing, especially if you tell your doctors beforehand and we are already monitoring you for any possible side effects that could come from the exogenous hormones that are given to you. Yeah, so,
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
but
Thank
then
you.
the same rule applies to you. Don't rush into IVF. Be sure that you need IVF. Right?
Sure.
That's
Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Janvi. Thank you so much. Deepshika, uh,
I
Yeah,
have a
hi
question if I
doctor.
may ask.
uh, Saima,
Hello.
can I come back to you?
Sure.
Yeah, Deepshika, go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi doctor. Actually, I'm a 41 years old, and I've tried like since 1 year only. But now I have checked with some gynecologist. So they are saying that you have an AMH level very low, and you have some uterus lining issue also. So you should go for IVF only. And my husband's sperm count is also less, like it's 50%, and it is good for IVF. They are saying that. So should I go for IVF without wasting any time? Because they are saying that you are now 41 years or menopause kabhi bhi aa sakta hai, then you should go for IVF only.
Got it. Got it.
So
Yeah. So again, I would say I'm answering your question in general over here, Deepshika, because
yes,
from what
sir.
you just described, what is clear is that there is, we've got AMH which is low, which means there are fewer number of immature follicles which are
Huh,
available, and with every year वो कम हो जाएगा, so the chances of
right,
producing viable eggs via IVF is going down. That's one
right.
problem. Second
Hmm.
problem is they're probably telling you that the endometrial thickness is not good enough. That when
Huh,
they do a transvaginal ultrasound, आपकी जो thickness होनी चाहिए by day 10, day 14, वो बन नहीं
huh.
right? So then they're
Okay,
that you should. Those are the two reasons why they're saying. As far as your husband's sperm is concerned, 50% motility, etc. Again, they're trying to treat you as a couple, club you together, and probably suggest IVF. So
okay.
in general, the rule
Hmm.
is any lady who is above 40 years of age,
Huh,
is probably a viable candidate for, IVF, provided your AMH being low is also leading to another number called FSH being high. Okay,
okay.
so it's not a simple, straightforward thing. We do have cases I can't remember a 41-year-old offhand, but certainly a 40-year-old, jinki
Mm-hmm.
AMH low thi, but their
Okay.
was not very high, and
Okay.
their endometrial thickness was low, but it improved while they worked with us on the program. So
Okay.
what I would say anyway, Deepshika, aisa hai, even if you go for IVF at this stage, right? So what will
Ji.
they do? They will give you certain chemicals to stimulate your eggs so that more, like I said, can be extracted. They will
Right.
also give you injections of a particular medicine called Proginova, which will improve your inner wall of the uterus. Okay.
Okay.
तो ये सब तो improve हो जाएगा, and they will also create an embryo, God willing, and the embryo will be put back inside you. ठीक है जी?
Okay.
But the
Ji.
important thing is, if your own foundations are not well established, अगर आप में कुछ deficiencies वगैरह हैं, तो the
Ji.
chances of that first trimester पार होना becomes a little difficult. Okay, so IVF
Okay.
कहते हैं 1 in 3 की success है. They speak about chances of pregnancy, not chances of childbirth. मतलब आप
Right.
प्रेग्नेंट हो जाओगे, लेकिन वो बेबी होना, अगेन हम इंडिया में क्यों नहीं बताते? 3 महीने खत्म होने के पहले क्लोज रिलेटिव्स
Ji.
के अलावा किसी को बताते ही नहीं. द
Right.
रीजन
Right.
because we know कि nature is still selecting whether that child should be allowed to continue or not, and that is often decided on the basis of the health of the mother and whether the mother is strong enough to carry that baby, and जो आपकी egg थी, husband की sperm थी, उनकी कितनी foundational अच्छी quality थी, because that is what will
Ji.
create the embryo. Remember, all the IVF process is able to do कि आपकी जितनी भी अच्छी egg है उसे निकालते हैं, आपके हस्बैंड के
Ji.
जितने अच्छे स्पर्म है उसे वॉश वगैरह करके दे यूज दैट, बट दे आर नॉट
Ji.
डूइंग टू इम्प्रूव द क्वालिटी ऑफ दैट बेस मटेरियल इटसेल्फ. तो
Ha
फाइनली
ha ha.
होता है कि यू आर यूजिंग एन एम्ब्रियो व्हिच समहाउ हैज बीन क्रिएटेड and then it has been put inside the mother. If the mother's fundamentals are still not good enough, you will
Mm-hmm.
constantly need to be pumped up with drugs throughout the pregnancy to make the pregnancy last.
Okay.
So हम हमेशा यही कहते हैं कि अगर IVF भी करना जरूरी है, even if it is because of low endometrial thickness or fallopian tube being blocked or any other structural reason, despite if the parents have better health, obviously the embryo they will create even in IVF will be of better quality. So ये
Okay.
बहुत जरूरी है. So I would say it is a little long and confusing answer, I'm sorry, but that is because वो case by case पे decide होता है. आप अगर अपनी
Ji.
file की details भेजती हैं, तो then it will be
Ji.
possible for us to give you a more particular answer.
Okay.
In general, yes, we have had women. So we've even had a 42-year-old who said कि मुझे इस age में conceive करना है और naturally करना है. And
Oh.
it's possible, and yes, it is possible. So it's not impossible, but उसके लिए foundational काम करना जरूरी है, and
Ji.
you have to give it time. क्योंकि सारी
Right.
दुनिया जल्दी जल्दी कराएगी. They will say, "Hare, you're already losing time. 6 more months you will
Yes.
do."
Yes. Yes.
But this is the simple thing कि अगर कहीं आपके ground floor में issue है, तो will you
Ji.
spend 6 months fixing the ground to 4th floor, या आप कहोगे नहीं नहीं हमें जल्दी है, 5th floor को किसी भी तरह से हमारा ठीक करो. So that is a choice, but it is a lifelong choice, because ये सिर्फ आपकी choice नहीं है. The child you create will take the health that you give the child today. वही उसकी पूंजी है, उसी से
Right.
उसकी life set होगी आगे. So it is
Ji.
important to take a longer view, and if we feel IVF is indeed advisable for you, we'll tell you so as well.
Fantastic.
Oh. Okay. 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 Thank you so much.
Great, great. Thank you. I hope
Yeah.
you got your answer, Deepshika.
Yes. Yes, doctor. Very
Wonderful,
much.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Great. Seema, over to you. Hi, Seema. Can you hear me? Okay. Neha, over to you, please.
Hi, doctor.
Yes, tell me.
I'm audible?
Yes, you are audible.
So, doctor, I'm 35. I'm 35, trying naturally since 3 years. So the gynecologist just told me that maybe the polyps are causing this, unexplained infertility, and they suggested, a surgery. So is that normal? And do you think what is the percentage that will really help in getting pregnant?
Yeah, so polyps are natural growths in the uterus, and indeed, sometimes a polyp can cause a problem, especially if you've been trying for 3 years and your gynec has done a scan and she's decided that the polyp may be getting in the way. We have seen cases where a polypectomy helps. This really depends upon the position of the polyp. Okay, so generally, polyps which are hampering fertility in such a serious way will be close to the mouth of the uterus, so it's called the fundus. So the polyp will be close to the fundus. If that happens, then indeed the polyp may be coming in the way, and removing the polyp may indeed improve your chances of conception.
Sure. Thank you, Doctor.
Welcome.
So my question was just this, if I may ask.
Sorry, who can you introduce yourself, please?
Saima.
Hi, Saima, go ahead. Yeah.
So I, in fact, I have already joined, decided to join the Sepalika program because I read a lot and I have seen the videos. My only concern was that I have had 3 miscarriages, 3 failed IUIs, and now the fertility specialist is pushing me towards IVF, and I do not want to go towards IVF. I'm going to be 43 by August.
Okay. No, so very, very brave of you. It's a difficult decision. I salute you for your decision. देखिए ऐसा है कि when there have been 3 miscarriages, it is important to get to the bottom of why these are happening, right? So miscarriages can happen due to multiple reasons. There could be a hidden infection that somebody hasn't tested, but agar itne dur aap aaye ho, somebody must have done all the torch tests for you.
Yes.
In lot of Indians, there is hidden TB that has not been detected, especially if TB is not being tested with menstrual blood. That can be one of the hidden reasons why we actually miscarry. That is, a second reason, I would say. A third reason could be any of the autoimmune antibodies. So whether you have anti-phospholipid antibodies or several others. So there is a simple checklist that one must go through. So I'm sure that somebody's already done the gynecology or reproductive system wala checklist, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to go ahead and say what I'm saying next. So that leaves the factors that the gynecologists don't understand. Okay, so this is the problem of 6 years of education, then 3 years of specialization, and then doing something for 20 years. So आप इतने specialized हो जाते हो कि आप foundation भूल जाते हो. So that is the one place where we might be able to help. That said, 43 is a pretty advanced stage. Again, I would need to see the individual case particulars. We need to be sure that should we be telling you that by all means we'll build your foundations, but still IVF will be the way to go. Because at 43, even the IVF success rates fall well from the 1:3. 1 in 3, they fall to, if memory serves again, 1 in 20 or 1 in 23. Right? So even with IVF, the chances of carrying a baby to full term are become weak. So I would say indeed, in your case, certainly it is important to be sure that timing wise, we're not losing time, and yet help you build the foundation so that whatever system we finally decide to help you to conceive, whether it's naturally or it's through IVF, if there are structural issues, etc., still our chances even with IVF are far greater, right? So miscarriages jo hui hai, that can be repeated even with an IVF. So all they will do in an IVF is they will do some amount of genetic test, which is called PSA, and then they will put in the best embryos from the lot into the uterus, so that our chances of avoiding a miscarriage are far greater. However, that does not, remember, genetic testing can't be 100% guarantee. तो हर कोई IVF कर रहा होता, because who wants a miscarriage, right? That's not how it works. So it's important to look at the very specific particulars of your case, and I would not rule out IVF. Honestly, I'm not going to give you false hope. What is more important is, अगर हम IVF करते हैं, how do we know that it's going to succeed? That is more important. That have we optimized, have we checked off all the boxes? Are all the other 4 flows working properly? So we get cases, like I mentioned earlier, like one of the couples whom we have, we're very happy because they send us these baby pictures after. So recently there are a couple from Kerala, they sent us pictures of Onam with their child, and nothing makes us happier. The baby is now 2 years old, and they've come on camera, etc. So, their identity is known to people. We're not breaking any confidences here. But that couple, they have been through 13 years of marriage, 9 years of trying, 3 IVF centers, 9 rounds of failed IVF. And all that had happened was somebody didn't fix their thyroid. We fixed their vitamins, minerals, we fixed their thyroid. They conceived naturally the full-term baby, 3.5 kg baby boy, and we couldn't be happier. So the important thing is IVF also fails, and it fails often because ye fundamentals nahi correct to everything. Like I said, you've been through so much process. Maybe all the reproductive system tests have all been done. Torch is okay. There's no IgG, IgM. There's no autoimmunity. All that is okay. But kisi ne fundamentals nahi theek. So fixing the fundamentals would be the right starting point, and then from there to decide, are we giving ourselves too much of a window? At 43, the ability to carry a baby to full term, I can tell you'll be in the papers for sure. So when we finally have the delivery, you will be in the papers, because it would be considered a late age pregnancy for sure. And therefore, it is important that we should do the scientifically correct in whichever way that we do it.
Okay. So I've already taken the number from Pranita. I will connect with you all.
Sure.
Wonderful.
Please.
Thank you, Saima. Thank you, Mahesh. I will take one last question. I think, in the interest of time. Bharti, could you please go ahead?
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me all?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. I've been a great example for this IVF treatment. So I have, conceived through IVF 2 times, but due to some or other reason, doctor advised me to abort the baby 2 times. Recently, 2 months back, also I had to abort my baby because the heartbeat's not seen at 2.5 months. My history is like, I have been thyroid patient for the last 10 years, and I've been married to like 10 years now. I don't know, but my experience says that due to these injections and stimulation, my sugar levels, went up to 250. Means stand-up sugar also. So I was on insulin for 3 months on bed rest. Still, I had to abort my baby. And the way, doctor said yes, the fundamentals has to be strong. Then only we can go for the IVF and IVF. And right now, like I'm and my family, as just left the hope for going for any treatments also. We just wanted a baby, healthy baby, natural way as soon as possible. So can you please advise doctor on our thoughts about this? Because we don't want to go for now IVF and IVF.
I understand. No, it's such a painful experience, Bharti.
Yeah.
For sharing that, and I'm really sorry for what's been happening. See, it's like this again, right? So some people, when they go for IVF, obviously we are all wanting that result. To want to have a baby is such a natural instinct. So we're all trying for that result. And again, I would praise the doctor who's telling you that the fundamentals need to be strong, and only then we should go for IVF. Again, it's a very intelligent and very unusual advice, because in today's world they're constantly pushing you for next higher technique. IVF में अब हम ICSI कर देंगे, हम ERA testing कर देंगे, हम ये कर देंगे. They will keep sort of pushing the more and more expensive procedures. Sometimes well-meaning doctors also do it because that is all that they know. But you're absolutely right. You must work on the fundamentals if your health is good. So why is it that some women who go through IVF end up with insulin resistance or high blood sugar and bed rest and so on, and the others don't? So it's not like, every IVF stimulation is going to be produce a terrible outcome. But at the same time, any IVF that is done without fixing the fundamentals will indeed lead to problems. So I would say for sure, look at the fundamentals, especially what you mentioned in the last baby, the one, recently you have said where the unfortunate abortion had to be done, no heartbeat was formed, right? So probably the yolk sac was visible, but no heartbeat by the time 2.5 months have gone. So ideally by the 8th week, we should be seeing heartbeat. I don't understand why they are waiting for 2.5 months to try and see a heartbeat. So by week 7.5, 8, if we don't see a heartbeat, then, it's not a it's not a good sign. I would wait probably 1 more week only after that, and not more than that. So it's crucial for us to understand that these fixing our fundamentals, like you said, you're on thyroid and you're on medication. So here is another thing to share with everybody. Thyroid is the most misunderstood of all hormones. Most women think that because they are taking Thyronome or Eltroxin, their thyroid is quote unquote under control. Under control bolke kuch nahi hota hai. The thyroid is the master energy producing gland of the human body, and creation of a new life requires not just sufficient thyroid but excessive thyroid, because that excessive thyroid is what will help cell multiplication happen in the baby. So your baby begins as a single cell, right? And then it multiplies. So even in IVF, when they put the 5-day blastocyst, when they put it, it started as one cell. It has grown up to 450, 500 cells by the time they put it back. ये जो cell multiplication की process है, that is very, very energy dependent and thyroid dependent. So your thyroid should not just be enough, it should be super optimal. तो ये नहीं कि हमारी TSH कंट्रोल में आ गई, 3 के नीचे आ गई and our thyroid is fine. No. You need your thyroid to be so good that your free T3 is 3.5 plus. That is the kind of thyroid activity you need. So many times, not getting a heartbeat at week 7, week 8 can often be due to sort of either a poor thyroid activity or due to an infection which now they believe is somehow not there anymore, but is still there hidden. In our practice, among the colleagues who practice our kind of medicine, we often discuss कि 7th week, 8th week में अगर heartbeat नहीं आ रहा है, repeated अगर हमारी miscarriage या abortion करवानी पड़ रही है हमें, then it is often because there is some sort of a hidden infection which is below the detectable limits, but it is still there. So sometimes you have to optimize the person, not just down to printed lab values, but well beyond that. So to finally give an example before we close, for example, D3 अगर हम लेते हैं, we have all heard of vitamin D3. Thanks to Corona, now everybody knows D3 सबको मालूम है, सब लेते हैं. D3 के अगर printed values आप देखेंगे lab report में, the normal range will say anything above 30 mg per ml is normal. In all of our fertility patients, we don't allow it to be below 60. Because between that 30 to 60, it is enough for your own life, but not enough to create a new life. When it is above 60 mg per ml, which is what it would have been in your youth, आपको मालूम भी नहीं रहेगा, because उस time पे कौन test करता है? When you're 24, 25 years old, you don't go and do any blood test unless you fall seriously ill. That time, if I test your blood, your D3 levels will be 65 plus. And at that, for me to make you conceive is very easy. But at this age, when you test and it's between 30 and 60, we don't consider it enough. So our standards for what is appropriate or optimum for vitamins, minerals, etc., all that is different from what is for detecting disease. Below 30, you will have disease. 30 to 60, it is enough for yourself. Above 60 is where creation of new life is optimally supported. So this is the kind of, इस तरह की thinking से हम अगर approach करेंगे, and if your fundamentals are all improved, आपकी तरफ से भी मेहनत लगेगा भारती जी. Please remember this. Lot of people get used to IVF. IVF में क्या करते हैं? आपको कुछ नहीं करना, चुपचाप जाके आपको बैठना है, वो इंजेक्शन लगाएंगे, स्कैन करेंगे, ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे. You become a passive observer. हमारे प्रोग्राम में वो नहीं चलेगा. You have to be an active participant. आपकी डाइट बदलेगी, आपकी नींद की पैटर्न बदलेगी, आपकी लाइफस्टाइल बदलेगी. We will ask you to go for a walk. It is not just about swallowing medicine. We'll give you all the vitamins needed to support you, but you will be a willing and conscious participant in the whole process. It's not our program is not for those who think या तो IVF करवा लो, वो सुई लगा देंगे, या इनके पास चले जाओ, ये डाइट बता देंगे. No. Ours is an involved program. You have to participate. You will consciously bring a very healthy child into the world. उसके लिए आपका participation जरूरी है, not as a passive passenger. We are not the doctors driving the bus. You will sit with us and drive your own bus. This should be clear.
Bhavesh, I'm sorry to interrupt. I know we've reached our 1 hour limit, but we do have 2 unanswered questions and the audience is still here. So if you don't mind, can I ask Mahesh those questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Mahesh, the first one is from Spriha saying, I have regular periods, 28 to 30 days. Could I still be having a hormonal issue?
Yes, absolutely. So regular periods is one of the most sort of red herrings, as we call it. कि वो false आपको hope दिखाता है कि if it's regular, everything must be happening. So one of the key things that happens is you can have regular periods without ovulation. ऐसे periods को anovulatory period कहते हैं. Yani what happens is first 15 days, the inner wall of your uterus is getting built and an egg is maturing. Around day 15, an egg must be released. And after the egg is released, if you don't get pregnant in the remaining 15 days, naturally a period will come where the inner wall of the uterus is shed. Unfortunately, this process can happen even if no egg is released in the middle. If 28 days the inner wall of the uterus is getting built, finally it will become so heavy that you will have a natural period, but you may not have an egg that is released in the period. So अगर egg ही नहीं release हुआ, तो you will not be able to conceive. So there are many reasons to have a regular period and yet not be able to conceive. So I would again suggest, please do consult with somebody who is an expert in the area. We are happy to help you as well, but we'll need to see why you are having regular periods but not conceiving.
Thanks. Second question is, I have a T-shaped uterus. Is that a structural issue that will prevent natural conception?
Yeah. So, bicornate uteruses that are in slightly different shape, it becomes very difficult to tell whether it will have a material difference or not, because these are so individual. How sharp is the shape of the T? Is it a broadish T? Is it very acute, etc.? It will take a very specific way of looking at it. In general, it does fall into a category which is called a higher risk pregnancy, but we'll have to look at the particulars of her reports to be able to help her, in a more reasonable fashion.
Thank you. Over to you, Bhavesh.
Thank you, Shada. Thank you so much, Mahesh. Any questions so far? Whether in the meantime, anyone in the audience would want to connect with Mahesh and team, please do reach out to them on 9867337112, or just drop in an email to them. They're super active. So email ID would be thrive, THRIVE at Sepalika. It's SEPALIKA.com. And also ask at sepalika.com. Okay, great. Mahesh, I have a question, okay, which has come to me, on the chat. Can you suggest something for painful intercourse?
Sure. So painful intercourse can be due to multiple reasons, and generally it's more of the female factor than the male factor. And in the lady, it could be either structural or functional. Okay, these are two important things. Some women just have far tighter vaginal openings. They're just born with, a reproductive system that is a lot tighter and smaller. And this is something that, needs to be addressed sometimes as drastically as with surgery. Okay, so we'll set that aside. That's an extreme case and generally rare. If it's a person with a reasonable sized opening, etc., and still they are feeling pain, this can often be due to, either a psychological fear or physiologically low levels of the hormone estrogen. So if we have low levels of estrogen, then we will find that, this sort of thing will happen. Unfortunately, this is not the sort of thing where I can suggest a home remedy like seed cycling, which will actually fix this problem. This is a problem that requires medical help for proper diagnosis. And yes, even oral medication can help you to not feel this kind of pain, etc. But it requires a pelvic exam at times to see if any of the muscles of the pelvic region are again genetically or by birth itself tight, etc. So it requires a little bit more of a detailed analysis to help you with this, but don't lose hope. It is very fixable. It's a very normal problem, and it's something that, can be addressed with medication.
Thank you so much, Mahesh. Thank you. Any more questions? I think, I'm okay to take one last question as well. I think this is very, interesting to know a lot beyond. We are just looking at health and wellness and IVF as well, right? So any further questions?
I would like to, I mean, it's a question and a summary together, Pranita here.
Yeah.
You know, Mahesh, and you've already been through a lot of different kinds of stories that we have faced at Sepalika. And one of them is, of course, you know, the confusion that generally when you are thinking about reproduction and you're going with that mindset, you know, there is a lot of confusion, number one, and there is a lot of lack of clarity that people may have. So would a consult with Sepalika, you know, help you get better clarity? That is number one. Number two, I would just summarize that I think a lot of people joined late. So, you know, if you have questions, we may need to do this as a continuous thing, because there are too many questions which all of them cannot be answered in one session. So what we may kind of, you know, send out a note or an email to everybody who is here. If you have not registered, please share your contact details on the numbers that are provided with from Bhavesh. So yeah, so that would, yeah. So Mahesh, you know, can you just summarize that, you know, how can a consult with Sepalika help you get more clarity?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we have that special format. So, you know, in no other program of Sepalika do we have a great counseling call, because in fertility we realize that people come almost like victims of the journey. You know, it's very sad to have to use a term like this. They are so passive in this whole process because they get shunted from doctor to doctor. One person suggests some injection, second person some procedure, third person something else. So our first job, and I believe our most important job, is to provide people with a roadmap. You know, वो जब आप जाते हो रणथंबोर या कहीं भी जाते हो, वहां बोलता है you are here. You know, you are here, this is where the tigers congregate, this is where the lodge is, this is where the water hole is, and so on. So that is the first thing that we tell people: you are here. Aap kahan ho? Where are you on this process? Are you somebody who immediately needs IUI? Is your clock truly ticking away? Is it that IVF will help you? So we will help you understand, you know, basis your reports and basis what you are able to tell us. We will give you guidance. And like I keep saying, I end every call with this. I tell people there is no compulsion to join any program, including Sepalika. Aap pehle socho. You know, because mine is you know, we keep saying ours is a program which is a partnership. If you are not ready for this partnership, aapke paas paise hain, don't come. Because we will not be able to help you. It is not that, you know, we are wantedly doing it or we are trying to be over smart or anything. क्योंकि you must become a co-partner in this journey, and we will give you that guidance, tell you should you go for IUI, should you go for IVF, if you do, what is the foundational work you still need to do, etc., etc. So we've got that whole area mapped out. We don't do just Ayurveda, we don't do just nutrition, we don't do just holistic. We've got Ayurvedic doctors, we've got allopathic doctors, we've got cutting edge IVF specialists. They're all part of our panel. So we know if somebody tells you, नहीं ERA testing से हो जाएगा, we tell you ERA testing से real में होगा या नहीं. So we understand. You know, I subscribe to 8 IVF journals which come into my mailbox every morning. So we know what is happening with the IVF world. We know what's happening with the IUI, with Western science, etc. And yet we know what is the power of nutrition, vitamins. We will guide you as best as possible. So indeed, a counseling consult is the right starting point.
Fantastic, Mahesh. Thank you. I'll take one very last question, Mahesh. Yeah. Satish, can you unmute yourself, please? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Hi, sir. My question to you is, how will consuming more protein create infertility?
Create infertility. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I need to be sure that your question is, will consuming more protein create infertility, right?
Not create infertility, but it leads to infertility sometimes. Due to digestive power may not be very strong. So in that sense.
So, you know, too much of anything is bad. So, you know, too much, if you consume water all day long, people think it's very good, no? These days, everybody's into water. Pani piyo all day long. So we cases where people are drinking like 5-6 liters of water a day, and all their B vitamins, all their water soluble vitamins get washed out through the urine. So too much of anything is bad. In general, in India, protein consumption is on the lower side, not on the higher side. A lot of India tends to be vegetarian. Even non-vegetarian India only eats non-vegetarian on 2 or 3 days of the week. रोज का नहीं होता. There are very few people who eat meat every day. या तो मंगलवार की छुट्टी या शनिवार की छुट्टी, हनुमान जी और शनि जी, somebody is telling you not to eat meat. So we, in general, we are on a lower protein side, not on a higher protein side. But many men who will often go for protein, etc., as part of bodybuilding, they may not have the ability to digest that protein well, and that can lead to a lot of buildup of undigested food in their body, and that is how I can possibly think of why high protein may lead to infertility. But in general, in India, if you ask me, if 10 cases of protein trouble-based infertility come to me, at least 9 of them aren't eating enough protein. It isn't that they're eating too much.
Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you so much. I think we can come to a quick conclusion that yes, there are alternative solutions to every problem, provided you look at from a very rational perspective. Eating healthy is always not going to hurt you anytime, right? And yes, there are experts which are available in the industry, especially Sepalika has been doing some amazing work. So congratulations and commendable work, Mahesh and Team Sepalika. I think we are very fortunate to have you guys join us today. It's a great learning experience, especially for men also like us, that because I think it's a partnership, as you rightly said, right? Partnership of both the partners along with experts from the industry that will help you solve problems without going into a lot of complications in life. I think, let the nature take its own course and we can just support through human interventions and technology today as well, right? So with that, thank you so much, Mahesh. Thank you, Sepalika. Thank you, Sharda and team for joining us today with this insightful session. Do drop in us an email as well. You all have my email IDs. I'll also send you, a quick thank you note post this session. Do check your emails. Do join us, as a community for women entrepreneurs. If you have any suggestions, do reach out to us. And with that, thank you note and gratitude note. Thank you, Mahesh, for joining us and spending your valuable time. More important is the information that you have shared, which made it very, very simple for people to understand.
Thanks very much for the opportunity, Bhavesh, and thank you everybody for taking time on a weekend and actually becoming part of this. Be very happy to continue answering questions, and more power to you, Bhavesh, in what you do with Billennium Divas.
Thank you so much. Yes, we will do. We will actually send you the video recording as well. Which will be available in some time. So people who have joined late can also go through this entire recording and look into it as well. With that, I come to a conclusion of this session. It's very interesting and insightful, Mahesh, and I look forward to once again inviting you with us, with solutions that are needed in today's world. So thank you so much.
Thank you everybody. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.